Paris, France, October 13th, 1307. Friday morning, dawn breaks over the temple, the massive fortress headquarters of the Knights Templar in the heart of Paris. Inside, 200 Templar knights are sleeping. They've just returned from managing the order's vast network of banks, farms, and castles across Europe. These men aren't just warriors, they're bankers, accountants, international financiers. The Templars control more wealth than most kings. They lend money to monarchs. They manage the treasury of France. They've invented financial instruments that won't be seen again for centuries. At precisely sunrise, soldiers surround the temple. Thousands of them. King Philip IV of France has sent his entire garrison. The gates are battered down. Soldiers pour inside. Within minutes, every Templar in the building is in chains. Across France, the same scene repeats. Templar strongholds in Paris, Toulouse, Lyon, Marseille. Every chapter house, every castle, every farm. Simultaneous arrests, coordinated to the minute. By noon, every Templar in France, over 2,000 men, is in prison. The charges? Heresy, devil worship, spitting on the cross, obscene rituals. But everyone knows the real reason. King Philip owes the Templars money, enormous amounts of money, debts he can never repay. So instead of paying, he's decided to destroy them. And in the process, he'll seize their wealth, their land, their castles, their entire banking system. This is the end of the Knights Templar, an order that lasted 188 years, an order that transformed medieval Europe, an order that invented modern banking. But the question nobody asks is, how did a group of warrior monks become the most powerful bankers in history? The answer begins 188 years earlier, on a dusty road in Jerusalem, 1119 AD. The First Crusade ended 20 years ago. Christian armies conquered Jerusalem in 1099, slaughtering most of the Muslim and Jewish inhabitants. Now Jerusalem is the capital of a Christian kingdom in the heart of the Islamic world. But there's a problem. Christian pilgrims are traveling from Europe to Jerusalem by the thousands. They want to visit the holy sites, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where Jesus was crucified and buried. They walk hundreds of miles through hostile territory. And they're being robbed, murdered, kidnapped for ransom. The roads through the Holy Land are controlled by bandits, Muslim raiders, Bedouin tribes. A pilgrim traveling alone from the port of Jaffa to Jerusalem has maybe a 50% chance of arriving alive. A French knight named Hugues de Payan sees this problem and proposes a solution. He gathers 8 other knights, all French nobles, all veteran crusaders. They take monastic vows, poverty, chastity, obedience. They vow to protect Christian pilgrims on the roads of the Holy Land. They call themselves the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, the Knights of the Temple, Templars. King Baldwin II of Jerusalem gives them headquarters in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, built on the ruins of Solomon's Temple, hence the name. For the first 9 years, the Templars do exactly what they promised. They patrol the roads, they escort pilgrims, they fight bandits. They're effective. Pilgrim deaths drop dramatically. The Templars earn a reputation for courage, discipline, and absolute devotion. But they're struggling financially. 9 knights can't patrol hundreds of miles of roads. They need more men, more horses, more weapons, more supplies. In 1129, Hugues de Payan travels back to Europe to recruit. He appears before the Council of Troyes, a gathering of church officials in France. He explains the Templar mission. He asks for official recognition from the church, and he gets it. Pope Honorius II grants the Templars official status as a military religious order. Bernard of Clairvaux, the most influential churchman in Europe, writes a document called In Praise of the New Knighthood, endorsing the Templars. This is revolutionary. For centuries, the church taught that violence is sinful. Killing is always wrong. Warriors are necessary, but spiritually damned. They kill to protect society, but they can't go to heaven. Now, suddenly the church is saying, these warriors are holy. Fighting Muslims in defense of Christianity isn't just acceptable. It's a sacred duty. Templars who die in battle go straight to heaven. This is the birth of the holy warrior concept. The idea that violence can be sacred if directed toward the right cause, and it changes everything. Within a decade, the Templars go from 9 knights to 300, then 3,000. Young nobles across Europe join. Families donate land to support them. Kings grant them castles. The Templars become an army. A disciplined, highly trained, heavily armed force that answers only to the Pope. Not to kings, not to local bishops, only to the Pope. They build castles across the Holy Land, massive fortresses with walls 20 feet thick. They garrison these castles with hundreds of knights and thousands of support troops. But here's the thing about running an international military organization. It's expensive. A knight needs armor, weapons, a war horse. That's equivalent to buying a luxury car today. A castle garrison needs food, water, blacksmiths, armorers, engineers. The Templars need money, constant streams of money flowing from Europe to the Holy Land. And that's when they invent something that will change history. International banking. Here's the problem a medieval pilgrim faces. You're a French merchant. You want to travel to Jerusalem. The journey takes 6 months. You'll need money for food, lodging, tolls, bribes. But if you carry gold coins, you'll be robbed. Guaranteed. Everyone knows pilgrims carry money. Bandits watch the roads. So what do? Before the Templars, you had 2 options. Bring a private army to protect you. Expensive. Or don't go. The Templars offer a third option. You go to the Templar house in Paris. You deposit 100 gold coins. The Templars give you a letter of credit, a document with encrypted codes proving you deposited the money. You travel to Jerusalem. No gold, just a letter. When you arrive, you go to the Templar house in Jerusalem. You present the letter. The Templars decode it, verify it's authentic, and give you 95 gold coins. You've just completed an international bank transfer. The 5-coin difference is the Templar's service fee. This system is brilliant. It's safe. Robbing you is pointless because you carry no money. It's efficient. The Templars don't have to physically transport gold across the Mediterranean. And it's profitable. The Templars earn a fee on every transaction. Within decades, the Templar banking network spans Europe. You can deposit money in London and withdraw it in Acre. Deposit in Paris, withdraw in Constantinople. This is the first international banking system in European history. And once the infrastructure exists, it expands beyond pilgrims. Merchants start using it. Instead of transporting gold across dangerous roads, they use Templar letters of credit. Deposit in Venice, withdraw in Alexandria. Kings start using it. When King Louis VII of France goes on crusade in 1147, the Templars handle all the financial logistics. They arrange loans, they transfer funds, they pay his soldiers. The Templars aren't just escorting pilgrims anymore. They're managing the finances of kingdoms. By 1150, the Templars are the most trusted financial institution in Europe. Why? Because they can't be bribed. A Templar takes a vow of poverty. He owns nothing personally. Everything belongs to the order. If you try to bribe a Templar to falsify a transaction, he has no incentive to accept. He can't keep the money. This makes Templars incorruptible in an era when corruption is universal. Kings and nobles trust them to hold money, manage estates, transport valuables. If you're a king and you need to send 10,000 gold coins from London to Paris, you don't send soldiers. They might steal it. You send Templars. The order becomes a deposit bank. Nobles store their wealth in Templar strongholds, safer than keeping it in your own castle where your enemies might seize it. Then the Templars start lending. A king needs money to fight a war, but can't raise enough in taxes. He borrows from the Templars. They charge interest, disguised as administrative fees, because the church technically forbids usury lending at interest. But everyone knows what's happening. The Templars are now creditors to kings. King Louis VII borrows from them. King Richard Marne of England borrows from them. King Philip II of France borrows from them. By 1200, the Templars are managing the royal treasury of France. They collect taxes. They pay the king's debts. They advise on financial policy. They've gone from 9 knights protecting pilgrims to the Central Bank of Europe. Let's talk about what this means. For the first time in medieval Europe, there's an institution that operates above national boundaries. The Templars answer only to the Pope. They don't pay taxes to kings. They're exempt from local laws. They can't be prosecuted in secular courts. They own land in every kingdom: France, England, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Germany. They operate farms, mills, vineyards. They control shipping routes. They run markets. By 1250, the Templars are the largest landowner in Europe after the church itself, and they're generating enormous revenue: farming, trade, banking, loans. Estimates vary, but historians believe the Templars' annual income by 1280 is equivalent to billions of dollars in today's money. They're richer than most kingdoms. This creates a paradox. The Templars took vows of poverty. Individual Templars own nothing, but the order collectively owns everything. It's one of the wealthiest institutions on earth, and this wealth makes them powerful. Dangerously powerful. When a king owes you money, you have leverage over him. You can refuse to lend more. You can demand repayment. You can threaten to cut off credit. Kings don't like being told what to do by monks, especially one king, Philip IV of France. Philip IV becomes king of France in 1285. He's intelligent, ruthless, and constantly short on money. Philip's reign is defined by wars. Wars are expensive. Philip raises taxes, but it's never enough, so he borrows heavily. Much of that borrowing is from the Templars. By 1300, Philip owes the Templars so much money that he can't repay it. Not in his lifetime. Maybe not in his son's lifetime. The Templars aren't just his creditors. They're his financial overlords. They tell him how to manage his kingdom's finances. They audit his spending. They say no when he asks for more loans. Philip hates this. He's the king of France. He shouldn't answer to monks. So Philip starts thinking, what if the debt disappeared? What if the Templars disappeared? If he destroys the order, the debt dies with it. And he can seize their assets: land, castles, gold, everything. But he needs an excuse. He can't just say, I'm broke and they're my creditors. He needs charges that justify destroying a religious order. So Philip invents heresy. In 1305, rumors start circulating. Whispers, accusations. Former Templars, disgruntled members who were expelled from the order, come forward with stories. They say the Templars perform secret initiation rituals. New members are forced to spit on the cross. To deny Christ, to worship a mysterious idol called Baphomet, they say Templars engage in obscene acts, homosexual rituals, devil worship. These accusations are almost certainly false, but they're politically useful. Philip takes the rumors to Pope Clement V. He demands an investigation. Clement is reluctant. The Templars are under papal protection. They've served the Church for nearly 200 years. They're fighting to defend Christian territory in the Holy Land. But Philip pressures him, and in 1307, Clement agrees to allow arrests and questioning. Philip sees his opening. Templars across France wake up in chains. They're interrogated, tortured. The methods are brutal: rack, strappado, burning feet, waterboarding. The inquisitors want confessions. They want Templars to admit to heresy, devil worship, spitting on the cross. Under torture, many confess. Dozens of Templars sign statements admitting to obscene rituals. They'll say anything to make the pain stop. But when the torture ends, many recant. They say their confessions were forced. They deny the charges. It doesn't matter. Philip has his confessions. That's all he needs. He presents the evidence to Pope Clement V. Look, they admitted it. They're heretics. The order must be dissolved. Clement is trapped. Clement, he's technically the Templars' protector, but he's politically weak. Philip controls France. Philip controls the cardinals who elected Clement. Philip could depose him if he refuses. In 1312, at the Council of Vienne, Pope Clement V officially dissolves the Knights Templar. The order that lasted 188 years is destroyed by decree. What happens to the Templars? Some are burned at stake. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Templars, is executed in Paris on March 18, 1314. He's tied to a stake on an island in the Seine River, in view of Notre Dame Cathedral. Before he dies, de Molay recants his confession. He shouts that the charges are false, the order is innocent. He curses Philip and Clement, saying they'll answer to God within the year. Remarkably, both men die within a year. Clement dies 1 month later, in April 1314. Philip dies in November 1314 from a stroke during a hunting accident. Medieval chroniclers see this as divine judgment, God punishing the men who destroyed a holy order. But most Templars aren't executed. They're absorbed into other orders. Many join the Hospitallers, another military order. Some become secular knights. Some disappear into monasteries. In countries outside France, the persecution is less severe. In Portugal, the Templars simply rebrand as the Order of Christ and continue operating. In Scotland, evidence suggests Templars fled there and were protected. But the Templar banking system is destroyed. The network that spanned Europe, that allowed instant transfers from London to Jerusalem, that managed royal treasuries, it's gone. Europe loses its first international bank, and it won't get another one for centuries. Let's talk about what the Templars actually accomplished. They didn't just invent international banking. They invented financial instruments that wouldn't reappear until the Renaissance. Letters of credit, the ability to deposit money in one location and withdraw it elsewhere. This is the foundation of modern banking. Checks. Templars issued written orders that could be redeemed for gold. You could write a note saying, "Pay bearer 50 gold coins." And that note was as good as gold, if it bore the Templar seal. Trust accounts. Nobles deposited wealth with Templars to hold in trust. The Templars managed the assets, invested them, returned profits. This is asset management. Lines of credit. Kings borrowed against future tax revenue. The Templars would advance money now to be repaid when taxes came in. This is deficit financing. Accounting systems. The Templars kept meticulous records, every transaction documented, every deposit tracked. They invented double-entry bookkeeping, or at least used it before Italian merchants popularized it. Financial advisors. Templars audited royal finances, advised on budgets, recommended tax policies. They were the first management consultants. All of this, the entire infrastructure of modern finance, existed in the 1200s, created by warrior monks who took vows of poverty. So why did it disappear? Because the Templar system depended on one thing: trust. People trusted Templars because they were monks. They'd taken vows. They couldn't steal because they couldn't keep money for themselves. They couldn't be bribed because they owned nothing personally. This made them neutral, incorruptible. But when Philip destroyed the order, that trust shattered. If the King of France could arrest, torture, and execute Templars on false charges, who else might do the same? If the Pope could dissolve a holy order under political pressure, what order was safe? The lesson Europe learned was, don't become too powerful. Don't become richer than kings. Don't hold leverage over monarchs, because they'll destroy you. After 1307, no religious order ever attempted international banking again. The church retreated from finance. Kings took over monetary control. And for the next 200 years, Europe had no international banking system. Merchants went back to physically transporting gold, dangerous, inefficient, expensive. It wasn't until the 1400s When Italian merchant families like the Medici created private banks, that international finance returned. But even then, it took centuries to rebuild the networks the Templars had created. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Were the charges true? Did Templars really worship Baphomet, spit on the cross, perform obscene rituals? Almost certainly not. Every serious historian who's studied the evidence concludes the charges were fabricated. Here's why. First, confessions were obtained under torture. Torture produces false confessions. People will admit to anything, even crimes that are physically impossible, to make pain stop. Second, when Templars weren't being tortured, they denied the charges. Many recanted their confessions. If the rituals were real, why would they risk more torture by recanting? Third, the specific accusations don't make sense. The claim that Templars denied Christ contradicts everything about the order. They were founded to defend Christianity. They fought Muslims for 200 years. They built churches. They attended Mass daily. They died as martyrs. Fourth, investigations outside France found nothing. When other European monarchs investigated their local Templars, they found no evidence of heresy. Only in France, where Philip controlled the inquisitors, were confessions obtained. Fifth, the charges are suspiciously convenient for Philip. He needed an excuse to seize Templar assets. Heresy was the perfect charge, serious enough to justify execution, but vague enough to be difficult to disprove. The Templars weren't devil worshippers. They were creditors, and their real crime was being too powerful, too rich, and too financially independent of royal authority. But here's the fascinating part. The myth didn't die with the order. Within decades of their dissolution, legends started spreading. Secret Templar treasures, hidden knowledge, mystical rituals, conspiracies. Some claimed the Templars discovered secret documents under Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem, documents that revealed hidden truths about Christianity. Others said the Templars escaped to Scotland and became the Freemasons. Still, others claimed the Templars found the Holy Grail and hid it somewhere in Europe. These legends aren't historical. There's no evidence for any of them. But they reveal something important. The Templars captured imaginations because their story is dramatic. Warrior monks, international bankers, destroyed by a corrupt king, burned at the stake while cursing their persecutors. It's the perfect narrative for conspiracy theories. And those theories persist today. Books, movies, video games. The Templars appear in Assassin's Creed, the Da Vinci Code, National Treasure, always portrayed as keepers of ancient secrets. The historical Templars, the ones who invented letters of credit and managed royal treasuries, are less exciting than the mythical Templars who guard the Holy Grail. But the real story is more important. Here's why the Templars matter in 2026. They prove that international banking is possible, that you can move money across borders without physically transporting gold, that financial networks can operate independently of governments. Modern banking uses the same principles the Templars invented 800 years ago. When you use a credit card in a foreign country, you're using the Templar system. You present a piece of plastic, essentially a letter of credit, and receive goods. The money transfers electronically between banks. No gold moves, just ledger entries. When you wire money internationally to you're using the Templar system. Deposit in New York, withdraw in Tokyo. The Templars did this in 1200. When you trust banks to hold your money, you're trusting the same system the Templars created. The bank doesn't own your money. It holds it in trust, manages it, and returns it on demand. The Templars invented all of this, not because they were capitalists. They were monks who'd sworn poverty, but because they needed a solution to a practical problem. How do you move money safely across dangerous territory? Their answer created modern finance. But the Templars also teach a darker lesson. They show what happens when financial power concentrates in an institution that operates above national law. The Templars answered only to the Pope. They paid no taxes. They couldn't be prosecuted by kings. They were exempt from local regulations. Sound familiar? Modern international banks operate under similar conditions. They're too big to fail. They lobby governments. They operate across borders, making them difficult to regulate. When banks become more powerful than governments, governments eventually push back. Sometimes with regulation, sometimes with prosecution, sometimes, as with the Templars, with destruction. The 2008 financial crisis echoed this pattern. Banks became so powerful, so interconnected, that their collapse threatened entire economies. Governments had to bail them out because letting them fail would destroy the system. But afterward there was anger, prosecutions, regulations, Occupy Wall Street, the public demanding, how did banks become more powerful than nations? The Templars faced the same reckoning in 1307, and they didn't survive it. Let's go back to Jacques de Molay, burning at the stake in 1314. His last words were, "God knows who is wrong and has sinned. Soon a calamity will occur to those who have condemned us to death." Within a year, Philip and Clement are dead. The Capetian dynasty, Philip's family line, collapses within 14 years. France descends into the 100 Years' War. Medieval people saw this as God's judgment. Modern historians see it as coincidence. But here's what's undeniable. The destruction of the Templars removed Europe's financial infrastructure at a critical moment. The 1300s become a century of crisis. Banking collapses. The Black Death kills 1/3 of Europe's population. Wars devastate kingdoms. Economies contract. Did destroying the Templars cause this? No, but it removed one of the stabilizing institutions that might have helped Europe weather the crises. When you destroy the people who manage money, you create chaos. The Knights Templar existed for 188 years, from 1119 to 1307. They started as 9 knights protecting pilgrims on dangerous roads. They became an international army, a banking network, and a financial power that rivaled kingdoms. They invented systems that wouldn't be reinvented for centuries, and they were destroyed, not because they failed in their mission, but because they succeeded too well. They became too rich, too powerful, too independent, and a king who owed them money decided it was easier to destroy them than to pay them back. This is the story of the Knights Templar, not the myth, not the conspiracy theories, not the secret treasures or hidden grails. The real story. Warrior monks who accidentally invented international banking and paid for it with their lives. October 13th, 1307. 2,000 Templars arrested simultaneously across France. March 18th, 1314. Jacques de Molay burned at the stake. 188 years. From 9 knights to the most powerful financial institution in Europe. From holy warriors to international bankers. From protectors to prisoners. The Knights Templar. The first international bank. And the first financial institution destroyed by a government that couldn't control it. History remembers the myth, but the truth is more important. Because the pattern they established, financial institutions rising to power, governments feeling threatened, violent destruction, has repeated ever since. And it's still repeating today.